Ladies and gentlemen, there's one enemy standing between you and your destiny. One voice whispering in your ear every time you dare to dream, every time you start to rise, every time you begin to believe in yourself. That voice says, you can't do it. You're not ready. You're not enough. That voice is called fear. Fear doesn't come crashing into your life like a storm. It creeps in quietly like a shadow. It speaks in logic, in reason, in false safety. It says, stay where you are. Don't take the risk. Don't open your mouth. Don't step out. And if you listen long enough, you'll believe that fear is protecting you when really it's imprisoning you. Fear is a thief. It steals your confidence, your potential, your voice. It convinces you that failure is fatal and that comfort is peace. But comfort is not peace, it's paralysis. And the only way to break that chain is to confront fear head on, to look it in the eye and say, you will not silence me anymore. You see, the difference between the people who live their dreams and the people who die with them still inside is not talent, it's not education, it's not luck, it's courage. The courage to stand up, the courage to speak out, the courage to believe that what's inside you is greater than what's against you. Fear will tell you you're not qualified, but courage says, I'll learn. Fear says, they'll laugh at you. Courage says, I'll inspire them. Fear says, you'll fail. Courage says, failure is just feedback. Let me tell you something powerful. Every single one of us has a voice, a message, a calling. You were not born to blend in. You were born to stand out. You were born to speak life into dark places, to bring hope where there's despair, to challenge what's wrong and champion what's right. But that can't happen if fear keeps its hand over your mouth. There was a time in my life when I was afraid to speak. I wanted to stay invisible because being invisible felt safe. I told myself, if I stay quiet, no one can judge me. If I stay small, I can't fail. But here's the truth. Staying small doesn't protect you. It punishes you. Because deep down, you know you were meant for more. You know there's something in you that the world needs to hear. And the only way to unleash it is to open your mouth and speak with power. But to do that, you've got to overcome fear, not by pretending it's gone, but by walking through it. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the mastery of it. It's doing what you're called to do while fear is screaming in your ear. Courage is saying, I feel afraid, but I'm going to do it anyway. When you open your mouth with conviction, when you speak from your soul, something happens. Fear loses oxygen. Doubt begins to dissolve. And the power that's been locked inside you begins to flow freely. That's when your words stop being noise and start becoming change. You might be thinking, but what if they don't listen to me? That's not your responsibility. Your job is not to control the outcome. It's to deliver the message. Because somebody needs what you have. Somebody is waiting for your story, your lesson, your truth. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be real. See, people don't follow perfection. They follow authenticity. They follow passion. They follow the one who's been through the fire and came out still standing. Your pain gives your words power. Your struggle gives your story strength. Every scar you carry is proof that fear tried to stop you and failed. If you want to speak with power, you've got to stop performing and start transforming. Stop worrying about how you look and start focusing on what you give. Power doesn't come from impressing people. It comes from impacting them. It comes from truth, from purpose, from believing so deeply in what you're saying that it shakes the air around you. When you speak with power, you don't just use words, you transmit energy. You awaken something dormant in others. You remind them of who they are and what's possible. And that's what this world desperately needs. Voices that rise above fear. Voices that stand for truth. Voices that refuse to stay silent. But here's the challenge. Fear never leaves completely. Every new level will test you again. Every new opportunity will whisper, you're not ready. That's the moment you remind yourself, I've been here before. I fought this before and I made it through before. So when fear shows up, don't run. Don't hide. Acknowledge it, face it, and move anyway. Because every time you do, your courage grows stronger. And every time you speak despite fear, you prove that it doesn't control you anymore. You've got to tell yourself, I am more than my doubts. I am more than my past. I am more than this moment of hesitation. You've got to remind yourself of the truth. You were created for a purpose, equipped with a voice, and filled with a message that matters. So stand tall, take a deep breath, and speak. Speak as if your words carry fire, because they do. Speak like someone who's been to the edge and came back with wisdom. Speak like your life depends on it, because for someone out there it does. Fear can shout, but it can't win. Fear can tremble, but it can't stop faith. And when faith opens its mouth, fear has to flee. So don't wait for the perfect moment. This is the moment. Don't wait to feel ready. You'll never feel ready. Move now. Speak now. Live now. Because the voice that conquers fear becomes the voice that changes the world. Fear fades when purpose speaks louder. That is the first truth you must grasp if you want to live a life of power and impact. Fear is a natural response. It warns us. It protects us. It makes us cautious. But too often, it oversteps its bounds and becomes a prison. It tells you not to take the step, not to open your mouth, not to reach for the dream that is burning in your heart. Fear wants to control the narrative of your life, to dictate the limits of your potential, to convince you that safety is better than significance. Yet purpose real, burning, God-given purpose is louder than fear. When your purpose speaks, fear cannot compete. Purpose gives context to your life and meaning to your actions. Fear only sees danger. Purpose sees destiny. Fear sees the obstacle. Purpose sees the opportunity. When you understand why you were created, fear no longer has the final say. It is still present, but it is no longer commanding. You begin to see fear for what it is, a signal, not a sentence. Fear can alert you to risk, but it cannot decide your obedience. Purpose, however, calls you to rise, to act, to speak, and to live fully. The people who make the most significant impact in the world are not those without fear. They are those whose purpose speaks so clearly that fear is silenced. Moses was terrified to speak before Pharaoh, yet his purpose to free God's people overrode his fear. Esther trembled before the king, but her purpose to save her nation gave her courage. Your purpose is your voice inside, your internal compass that says this matters, this must be done. When that voice becomes louder than the whisper of fear, hesitation fades and action emerges. Fear thrives on uncertainty, on what ifs and imagined failures. Purpose thrives on clarity, on what must be done regardless of outcome. Fear asks, what if I fail? Purpose answers, what if I don't try? Fear whispers, they will judge you. Purpose responds, I must obey. Fear builds walls. Purpose builds bridges. Fear convinces you to shrink. Purpose calls you to expand. The louder your purpose speaks, the more you realize that fear is temporary while your calling is eternal. Every time fear rises, you have a choice. You can listen to it and retreat, or you can remind yourself of your purpose and move forward. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act in spite of fear. And that courage becomes available to you the moment your purpose begins to dominate the conversation in your mind and heart. Purpose gives clarity to your path. It prioritizes what is important over what is comfortable. It strengthens your resolve when uncertainty looms. And when it becomes louder than your fear, hesitation becomes impossible. Purpose also gives your voice authority. Fear makes your voice tremble. Purpose makes it resonate. Fear keeps your words small. Purpose enlarges them. Fear makes you doubt your value. Purpose affirms it. When you speak from a place of purpose, you do not need to be loud, polished, or perfect. The power of your words comes from the clarity of your conviction. People will listen not because you command attention, but because you have something important to say, something that cannot be ignored. Purpose pushes you forward, even when conditions are unfavorable. Fear tells you to wait for the perfect moment, but purpose tells you to act in the moment you're in. Waiting for fear to disappear is a trap. Fear rarely leaves on its own. It will linger, it will return, it will whisper at every new challenge. But when your purpose is clear, it gives you a steady rhythm, a heartbeat of courage that keeps you moving regardless of fear. The life-changing realization is this: fear only fades when your purpose is louder than your anxiety, bigger than your doubts, and more compelling than your comfort. Fear is a sound. Purpose is a trumpet. Fear whispers in the shadows. Purpose roars in the light. And when your purpose speaks loud enough, you will find yourself standing taller, speaking stronger, acting bolder, and living freer than you ever imagined possible. Once you fully embrace your purpose, fear loses its ability to paralyze you. It may still be present. It may still try to intimidate, but it can no longer control the decisions you make, the words you speak, or the actions you take. The louder your purpose, the weaker fear becomes, and the more unstoppable you become. Your voice is stronger than your doubt. That is a truth too many people never realize, because doubt has a way of convincing you that you are smaller, weaker, and less capable than you truly are. Doubt tells you to stay silent, to stay hidden, to settle for less than what you were born to achieve. It asks, who do you think you are? And why would anyone listen to you? But here's the secret. Your voice has power beyond your imagination. It is stronger than the doubts in your mind, stronger than the fears in your heart, and stronger than the obstacles in your path. Every time you hesitate because of doubt, you give it space to grow. Doubt feeds on inaction. It loves when you replay your failures, when you compare yourself to others, when you focus on your weaknesses. But your voice is not defined by what you lack. It is defined by what you speak and who you serve. The moment you choose to speak in spite of doubt, the tables begin to turn. You begin to realize that the barrier was never real. It was only the story your mind was telling you. Think about it. Doubt is an inner critic, loud, persistent, and convincing. It will say, you're too inexperienced, or you're too ordinary, or they won't care about what you have to say. And yet the truth is that your words, when spoken with honesty and conviction, carry more weight than doubt ever could. Every time you open your mouth to share your experience, your lesson, or your vision, you are proving that doubt has no authority over your purpose. Your voice is a declaration of life, of resilience, of potential, and of truth. The people who accomplish extraordinary things are not those who never doubted. They are those who spoke anyway. They did not wait for perfect confidence. They did not wait until fear vanished or until certainty appeared. They understood that doubt would always be there, but their voice could rise above it. Every word spoken in faith, every act of courage taken despite hesitation, chips away at the power of doubt. Each step forward is a message that your life is bigger than your uncertainty. Your voice is strong because it is personal. No one else has your perspective, your story, your experiences, or your insights. That uniqueness cannot be replicated, and it cannot be silenced unless you allow it. Doubt will try to convince you that your story doesn't matter, but the people who need to hear it cannot access it unless you speak. Your hesitation does not protect them, it deprives them. Your voice is stronger than doubt because it carries life beyond your own fears. The first time you speak in spite of doubt, it feels like a battle. Doubt will shout in your mind, stop, don't embarrass yourself, wait. But the moment you take a breath and speak anyway, you feel something shift. You feel strength returning. You feel courage emerging. You realize that your voice is not just words. It is authority. It is influence. It is a declaration of what you believe. Every time you speak in faith, doubt retreats a little and your confidence grows a little. Doubt thrives in isolation. It grows when you listen to only yourself, when you hide your ideas, and when you compare yourself to others. But your voice gains power when you act. Speaking aloud gives life to your ideas. Sharing your truth makes it tangible. Declaring your vision moves it from imagination into reality. The act of speaking is an act of defiance against doubt. An assertion that your life, your message, and your purpose matter. Every time you speak despite your doubts, you are creating momentum. Doubt may whisper, "You can't," but your voice responds, "I must." Doubt may question your worth, but your voice proclaims your heels calling. Doubt may insist on fear, but your voice insists on action. The more you practice speaking, the stronger your voice becomes, and the weaker doubt grows. The difference between those who live quietly and those who leave a mark on the world is not talent, luck, or circumstances. It is the choice to speak in spite of doubt. Every word you speak with courage, every truth you declare, every message you deliver is proof that your voice is stronger than any fear, any hesitation, and any inner critic that tries to hold you back. Your voice was given to you for a reason. It was created to break through the walls that doubt builds, to inspire, to challenge, to uplift, and to change lives. Doubt may persist. It may linger. It may call out at every new opportunity, but your voice is stronger, and it will always be louder if you choose to use it. Courage grows through action, not avoidance. That is the truth. Too many people overlook because they wait to feel brave before they move. And in waiting, life passes them by. Courage is not a feeling, it is a decision. It does not arrive as a gift from circumstance, and it does not appear when conditions are perfect. Courage is born in the moment you choose to act. Even when your heart is pounding, your hands are shaking, and your mind is filled with doubt, every step forward is the forge in which courage is made. Fear thrives on hesitation. It tells you to wait, to delay, to analyze, to protect yourself. But every moment spent avoiding action is a moment where fear grows stronger, where opportunity slips away, where potential is wasted. Courage is the antidote to this paralysis. It is not the absence of fear, but the refusal to be ruled by it. Every time you act despite fear, you weaken its grip on your life and strengthen your resolve. Action produces momentum, and momentum transforms timid hearts into fearless ones. Think about the people who have shaped history, who have inspired millions, who have achieved greatness. They were not fearless, they were deliberate. They felt the fear, acknowledged it, and moved anyway. Moses trembled before Pharaoh. Esther feared for her life, and the Wright brothers faced ridicule and failure. None of them waited to feel brave. They acted, and in that action, courage grew. Their bravery was forged not in comfort, but in the fires of risk and obedience. Action also clarifies purpose. Fear clouds your vision, but moving forward cuts through the fog. When you act even imperfectly, you gain clarity about what works and what doesn't, about your strengths and your weaknesses. Action produces results that feelings alone cannot produce. You cannot stumble into courage by sitting still. You stumble into courage by stepping out, by doing, by trying, by taking the first step toward what matters most. The mind will always try to justify avoidance. It will list reasons, create obstacles, and imagine consequences. But those are illusions compared to what action reveals. Action confronts fear and exposes it as smaller than it seems. Every step forward is proof that you are capable of more than you believe. Every attempt you make teaches you that fear was never a wall, it was only a shadow. Courage through action is also contagious. When others see you move in spite of fear, it inspires them to move. Your bravery gives permission for others to be brave. Your willingness to step forward becomes a signal that fear is not insurmountable. Action ripples outward. One bold choice leads to another and another, until what was once intimidating becomes familiar, manageable, and even empowering. Action develops confidence. Courage grows not from wishing it into existence, but from living it out repeatedly. Each decision to move forward builds a record of victories over fear. Over time, what was once terrifying becomes routine. What was once impossible becomes possible. The act of doing is itself transformative. You cannot think your way into bravery. You must live your way into it. Another powerful truth is, that action aligns you with opportunity. Fear prefers indecision because indecision protects it. Action, however, opens doors, creates pathways, and generates opportunities that would never have existed otherwise. Every time you choose to act, you position yourself to receive the rewards of effort, the lessons of experience, and the growth that only comes from engagement. Courage grows exponentially because action produces evidence. Each time you step forward, you prove to yourself that fear is not stronger than you. Each success, no matter how small, becomes a building block for greater acts of bravery. You cannot cultivate courage by avoiding life. You cultivate it by engaging life fully, by taking risks, by embracing challenge, by moving forward when every instinct tells you to retreat. Courage is a muscle. Like any muscle, it grows only when exercised. Avoidance weakens it. Hesitation atrophies it. But action stretches it, challenges it, strengthens it. Every step you take in faith, every word you speak despite anxiety, every risk you embrace despite doubt makes your courage stronger, more resilient, and more capable of facing even greater challenges. Fear may never fully disappear, but through consistent action, it becomes manageable. Courage becomes your default. Action rewrites the story of your life from one of hesitation to one of bold, deliberate, unstoppable movement toward your purpose, toward your goals, toward the life you were meant to live. Authenticity, not perfection, creates power. Too many people believe that in order to be heard, in order to lead, in order to inspire, they must be flawless. They think they must have all the answers, all the confidence, and all the charisma. They believe that any weakness, any mistake, any vulnerability will disqualify them. But the truth is that perfection is an illusion, and chasing it only strengthens fear. Real power is born not in trying to be perfect, but in being real, in being genuine, in allowing your true self to speak boldly. Authenticity disarms fear because it removes the pressure to perform. When you stop pretending and start living honestly, fear loses one of its strongest weapons, comparison. Fear thrives when you measure yourself against others, when you attempt to fit into a mold that is not yours, when you believe you must meet impossible standards to be accepted. Authenticity liberates you from all of that. It says, I am enough because I am real and my truth has value. The moment you embrace that, power begins to flow naturally. People connect with authenticity. They can sense it in the way you speak, in the way you move, in the way you react. No audience, no matter how skeptical, can resist someone who is unapologetically genuine. Words spoken with authenticity carry weight because they are rooted in reality. They resonate because they reflect lived experience, sincere belief, and transparent intention. Perfection might impress for a moment, but authenticity inspires for a lifetime. Authenticity also builds trust. When you speak from a place of honesty, people sense your integrity. They feel your courage, and they are drawn to it. Power is relational. It flows when others believe in you, when they sense that you are not hiding behind a facade. Trying to be perfect creates distance because people know it is an act. Authenticity bridges that gap because it communicates that you are real, that you are approachable, and that your message comes from the heart rather than a script. The pursuit of perfection often paralyzes action. People hesitate because they fear making mistakes, fear being judged, or fear falling short. That hesitation is fertile ground for fear to grow. Authenticity, however, encourages movement. It allows you to speak even if you stumble, to lead even if you are learning, to take action even if you are unsure. The act of being real becomes a declaration of courage. You are not waiting to be flawless. You are stepping into life with all that you have. Authenticity also amplifies your message. When you communicate from a place of truth, your words carry energy that cannot be fabricated. People respond to sincerity because it bypasses the mind and touches the heart. They remember the emotion, the conviction, the courage behind the words. Authenticity magnifies impact because it creates resonance. Your audience feels what you feel, believes what you believe, and begins to act because they sense your authenticity. Perfection is fragile. It depends on conditions, approval, and circumstances. Authenticity, on the other hand, is resilient. It thrives even in imperfection, in adversity, and in challenge. When your power comes from authenticity, it does not crumble when criticism arrives or when mistakes occur. Instead, it grows stronger because it is anchored in your real self and in your real purpose, not in superficial appearances. Authenticity requires vulnerability. It demands that you show up with your strengths and weaknesses, your victories and failures, your confidence and fears. That vulnerability is not weakness, it is the source of power. People are drawn to those who are real because it gives them permission to be real as well. Authenticity multiplies influence because it inspires others to embrace their own truth. When you choose authenticity over perfection, you release yourself from fear's grip. You stop hiding, stop overthinking, and stop holding back. You speak, act, and lead from a place of honesty, and that honesty carries authority. Power is not created by flawless execution. It is created when you bring your full self without pretense into every moment, every conversation, every opportunity. Authenticity transforms your presence. It transforms your influence. It transforms your courage, and it shows the world that true power does not lie in appearing perfect, but in being completely, unapologetically, and courageously real. Speak to impact, not to impress. That is the principle that separates those who move the world from those who merely perform. Too many people spend their energy worrying about how they will be perceived, how their words will be received, and how they can appear confident, polished, or impressive. They craft their speech to dazzle the ears, but in doing so, they forget the real purpose: to change hearts, inspire action, and leave a mark that lasts. Power comes not from performance. It comes from intention, from speaking with purpose and clarity. When you speak to impress, your focus is on yourself. You measure every word against how it will be received. You adjust your tone to please, your posture to attract, and your gestures to gain approval. Fear thrives in this mindset because it amplifies insecurity and magnifies mistakes. Every slip feels catastrophic, every judgment unbearable. But when your focus shifts from impressing others to impacting them, fear loses its grip. You are no longer a performer, you are a messenger, and the message matters more than how it is delivered. Speaking to impact requires clarity of purpose. You must know why you are speaking and what you hope to accomplish. It is not enough to have words. Your words must carry intention. You speak to illuminate, to challenge, to encourage, to provoke thought, to inspire change. When your message has meaning, it resonates. People feel it, connect with it, and respond to it. The measure of your speech is not applause or admiration. It is the transformation it brings. Impact requires courage. It demands that you speak when it is easier to stay silent, that you share when vulnerability feels dangerous, and that you act when hesitation is tempting. Every time you prioritize impact over impression, you take a stand for truth, for purpose, for the good that needs to be done. Courage amplifies your words because people recognize when they come from someone committed to a cause greater than themselves. Fear cannot silence someone whose voice is tethered to conviction. Speaking to impact also demands authenticity. People are drawn to those who speak from experience, from heart, from lived reality. Words that come from a place of genuine passion and honesty penetrate barriers that style alone cannot breach. Authenticity connects with others on a deeper level. It communicates that you are not just performing, but living and believing what you are sharing. That is the essence of influence. When others sense the truth in your words, they are compelled to listen and act. The difference between speaking to impress and speaking to impact is the difference between noise and legacy. Noise entertains momentarily, but legacy changes lives. Noise disappears when the audience leaves. Legacy endures in the hearts and minds of those who heard it. Every time you speak with the intention to impact, you are planting seeds that will grow long. After you stop speaking, your influence becomes enduring because it is rooted in purpose, not popularity. Speaking to impact requires humility. You cannot control the response. And the true measure of success is not how people react, but whether your message fulfills its purpose. Sometimes impact is immediate. Sometimes it is delayed. Sometimes it changes one person quietly. Sometimes it sparks a movement. But every time you speak with the intent to impact, you are serving something larger than yourself, and that service gives your words power that performance cannot achieve. When your focus is on impact, fear, doubt, and hesitation shrink. You are no longer worried about being judged because your attention is fixed on the difference your words can make. You speak with intention, courage, and authenticity. And in that combination, your voice becomes a force. Words that come from purpose penetrate barriers, challenge inertia, and inspire action. People may forget how eloquent you were, but they will never forget what your words caused them to see, feel, or do. Speaking to impact transforms the way you live. It shifts your priorities, your preparation, and your mindset. It replaces self-consciousness with selflessness, anxiety with focus, and performance with purpose. It teaches you that influence is not measured by applause, but by effect, and that the voice that seeks to serve will always be stronger than the voice that seeks to impress. When you embrace the principle of speaking to impact, your words become more than communication. They become instruments of change, courage, and inspiration. Your voice carries weight. Your presence carries authority, and your message carries life because it is delivered not for recognition, but for results.